1961 was a special baseball season. Roger Maris belted 61 home runs, breaking Babe Ruth's single-season mark of 60 set back in 1927. Along the way, a back-and-forth chase with teammate Mickey Mantle caught the attention of an entire nation. 50 years later, the M&M boys might not be around to celebrate the memories of that historic season, but we recently caught up with some of Maris's children, Randy, Richard, Kevin, and daughter Susan in Gainesville, Florida, to discuss the season that will forever immortalize their father. Your dad, as we mentioned before, very consistent clutch hitter, especially with the Cardinals in their 2 World Series runs. Do you think because he hit 61 in that season, again, a blessing and a curse, that people expected that of him every single season?
Sure they did. I mean, you look at it next season, he had 33 home runs, 100 RBIs, and they wanted to cut his pay. I mean...
Well, they called him the flop of the year. The UPI called him the flop of the year. Guys would sign for 33 and 100 in a heartbeat today. And
absolutely.
They put a moniker of flop of the year on your dad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ripken got MVP with 33 home runs one year. So, I mean, it wasn't a flop that year.
I mean, you look at the 3 years that my dad had, and from 60, 61, 62. I mean, those numbers are, you could put those numbers up against anybody's in those 3 years, of anybody in Major League Baseball
Even
history.
against Mickey Mantle, who people were calling the best player of all time, really. And your father's numbers, if you look at your father's numbers on the Yankees compared to Mickey's, they're very, very close.
And you talk about a team player. I mean, people don't know if they realize that he played in 7 World Series in his 12-year career with, started with Cleveland, with the Yankees, and ended up in St. Louis. And I tell you what, when St. Louis got him, I mean, talking to the Mike Shannons and the Tim McCarvers and all these, I mean, they knew that what they had just got. That he had a few years left in him, and, he was going to help them immensely. And he did. They went to World Series 67, 68, and won it once.
Members of the Cardinals were saying if Roger Maris was not here, we would be a second division team. That just should speak volumes.
It does.
And those were some of his fondest memories too. Playing it back, getting a chance to go back to the Midwest and play for those folks. So.
Yeah. No. I just think that, when you look at those 7 championships, he has the most of any player in the 60s, most, American League, National League championships during the 60s. That speaks volume to him as a team player. And it's so funny, every time the Hall of Fame voting would come up, I'd, go look at the blogs. Oh, Roger Maris, he wasn't this and anything. I go, man, look at, he played on 7 World Series in the 60s. And they're like, well, yeah, but look at the teams he was on. And I go, well, he was the MVP of those teams. So, if you're looking at a guy who's the MVP of these teams, of these great, great teams, how can this guy not be in the Hall of Fame? But it all boils down to they've got such a stigma on that 260 average. But like Kevin was saying, you go back and you look at what he was doing in the beginning of the season. Boom, appendicitis, running into walls. They didn't have padding back then. Dad ran into walls. In fact, in the minor leagues, he ran through a wood wall like one of those clips that you've seen before. But, if you go look at Dad's at-bats compared to all the other Hall of Famers and boil it down to at-bats, you're going to see some great stats.
What made your dad such a special person? Not Roger Maris, the baseball player, but Roger Maris, the father.
He treated everybody like he'd want to be treated. Didn't treat anybody with any more disrespect, no matter, if they're, I remember him telling me there was a guy that used to walk around town, had, I don't know if it was multiple sclerosis or what, but he had a limp and was walking with a cane. And I'd always see that guy walking around, and later in the years, Dad said, "You see that guy right there?" I said, "Yeah." And I said, "I see him all over." And he's a salesman, had just walked to all his businesses, and Dad would stop and give him a ride numerous times. And I never really knew that, and he just, out of the blue, said it one day. And but that's the way he was. He was genuine.
There's a drive to deep right, and there's number 57 off the top of the upper deck. Roger Maris gets number 57. And the ball game is tied up at 2-2. Oh, man, that ball was really hit. It hit the very top of the roof and bounced back down on the field.